Hello and welcome to the porch. This is my dream to have a place where creatives, makers, and artists can join together, talk about what we're working on, inspire each other, and make the world a better place. Hi, I'm Dr. B, the Naked Creative. No makeup, no fancy tech, just practical wisdom to support creatives in doing their art. I proposed this as a place where creatives could join together, a virtual porch. And literally, I am on a porch. Look at that. Isn't that just perfect? Adirondack chairs, just like in the invitation that I sent. How cool is that? I wish I had a real porch like this at my house. The truth is, where I live, we have many porches, but I don't think any of them are really my ideal. Is that wrong? No. I often work on my porch because I think it's a calm place. But as I said, I have a lot of different porches. During the pandemic, my husband closed in a porch that had been a carport. I would sit out there for hours writing. In 2020, I wrote 4 different books. One of them became my debut book, Do Your Art, 10 Simple Steps to Enhance Your Creativity and Elevate Your Mood. And it is available on Amazon if you're interested. I also wrote 3 novels. I thought I was going to get started on a 4th novel in a series, but when I started to write that book, instead, something called to me. It said, you need to write about the creative process. And so that's what I did with Do Your Art. It took me 3 years to finish it. The whole process was rather arrogant, I think, because once I did finish, and it came together pretty quickly. I started, I think, in October of 2020, and around January, I got to the final chapter. And by chance, I had been following Todd Brison, who wrote a book called The Creative's Curse. I was on his email, and one day an email came in that said, are you interested in working with me? Basically, that was the question. I hit reply and said, yes. That was it. Simple. Eventually, maybe in a day or two, he wrote back to me and said, just fill out this short application. Let me know a little bit about what you're working on, what your intentions are. He is a developmental editor, or at least he was at the time. So we had a phone call interview where he went over in more detail what the expectations would be, what he could do to help and support me. Pretty soon after that, we talked about price, costs, because a developmental editor and anybody who's an expert in any field does need to be compensated. I think I mailed him my check and I emailed him my finished manuscript. And here's where the arrogance comes in. I thought to myself, he's going to say this is great. He's going to say, I am so impressed with how you organize this. He's going to say, there's very little that I can do to help you. Cash the check anyway, but whatever. But that's not what happened. He wrote back with a lot of comments. I remember reading the comments on the Word document. Every page probably had 2 or 3 of those little comment bubbles where he would have questions, some small corrections. A developmental editor is not a copy editor. A developmental editor looks at the whole picture and helps the author to understand, are you conveying the ideas that you think you are conveying? That kind of thing. I was devastated. This often happens with creatives. We put out what we think is our best work. And then a friend, family member, colleague, stranger makes a comment. How do we take their comment and their feedback? In some cases, it can knock you off your course. In other cases, it makes you stronger and better. The developmental editor and how their comments and feedback can make you a better artist, creative, or maker, but only if you are in the right state of mind. It took me a while to work through all of his comments, and he suggested that we have 2 more rounds of editing. For each one, there would be another paycheck for him. But when you think about it, for wise feedback and support, that is a valuable commodity. So I did send him my edits eventually. I think it was probably around maybe even 6 or 8 months later. And this time, his edits and feedback came back to me in an envelope. He had printed out my entire manuscript, 2 pages to a sheet, and taken it with him on a vacation, I think he had said. It was much harder for me to process those handwritten comments, not because his handwriting was illegible, although in a couple cases, I had to take a picture of it and email it to him to ask for his interpretation. But because the process was different for me, I had to be looking at this printout and then going to my document. You know what? It's all good and it all worked out. And then we had our 3rd round of edits. After everything was as good as it could be, I asked him to write the foreword for my book, and he graciously replied and wrote a really wonderful foreword. Then I sent everything off to Jana Van der Veer, who did excellent copy editing. And so finally, a book. Finally. Wherever you are in your own creativity, hopefully you have the kind of support that will sustain you through the creative process. Sometimes creativity can be fast, and sometimes it takes a while. Neither one is better than the other. You have to be in the right headspace. Creativity is always fleeting. What do I mean by that? We can feel a breath of inspiration one moment and then it evaporates the next. I know writers who feel that if an story idea is worth pursuing, it will remain. They might wake up in the middle of the night with an idea for a scene, characters, maybe a setting. The good ones stay with us. I don't agree with that. I think it's important to have a capture system, a way to work with our ideas. If you're an artist, maybe it's a sketchbook. If you're a writer, documents. I have Google Docs on my phone. It's a great way for me to dictate, and then it creates the document. And through the magic of AI, it does a pretty good job of editing it too. I can dictate essays while I'm walking through the woods. I did one yesterday. Hopefully that will be an essay that I post on my Psychology Today page. I wanted to have these sessions, these porch talks, so that we can have a gathering space. My idea is bigger than that, but this is a beginning. Welcome to the porch. What are you working on? Let's chat. Simple. That's it. So how do you feel? I think that it's important for us to have a gathering place. Writers often have writers' groups, and sometimes those writers' groups are not supportive. There's a weird thing that happens in a writers' group. I think there are egos involved, even if we want to tell ourselves that we don't have an ego, but we do. We have an innate desire to rank ourselves against our peers. Are they better than me? Am I better than them? 2 questions. And in writers' groups, very often there will be the leader of the group. Do they have an agenda? Did they create this group truly altruistically? Or are they feeding their own ego? I'm sure artist groups are similar. Knitting groups. Maybe a cooking group. That would be fun. Getting together with your friends, everybody bringing a dish. How does that play out? Potluck. Or supper club, where you rotate to different people's homes, make a meal, and enjoy that meal together. Wonder if there's one of those around me. What other kinds of groups? Carpenters join together. Maybe they share equipment, maker spaces. They can also help each other with knowledge. Anyway, a lot going on, and I think having porch conversations, porch chats, can be a valuable place for us to build community. Doesn't matter how many people show up. I know that this is useful and valuable. We need more art in this world, great stories to read, visuals to make our spaces more beautiful, good food to eat, furniture to sit on, gardens that give us food and flowers. Even rock gardens can be very special places. Performance, musicians, playwrights, poets, and fiber Today I'm only wearing one thing that I made, but often I have more things. I did make my purse and I made my earrings too. I'm what is known as a multipotentialite. And that was the topic of yesterday's essay, my walk and talk. It's a beautiful thing to be a creative. Whether you call yourself an artist, a maker, a dabbler, a creative, it all matters. And it doesn't matter what level of creativity you are, a novice, a beginner, intermediate, advanced, master. I've written about all of these topics. They fascinate me. I will continue to share what I have learned. Okay, 2 more minutes, and then I will take a break. So whether you are watching the recording of this or you happen to stumble on me on YouTube, today is the inaugural session of Porch Chats. I see possibilities for creativity. The Creatives University, different courses of study, different buildings where the humanities reside, a wonderful culinary space that also feeds us, a fiber space full of sewing machines, knitting machines, irons, and a vast collection of resources. Maybe a library space where there are books to read and quiet spaces to write. A workshop for carpenters. So much, right? I thank you for finding me. Again, I'm Dr. B, the Naked Creative. No makeup, no fancy tech, just practical wisdom to support your creativity.